Welcome to High Performance, the podcast featuring Josh Phegan and Alexander Phillips. Alexander, we're at the end of the year 2016. We're now talking about predictions for 2017. What are your predictions for what you're thinking is going to be happening in the market over the course of the next year?
Josh, I think a few things you need to look at is probably where we're at and what's happened in the last 3 or 4 years. Particularly in New South Wales and Sydney, you've seen a huge amount of growth, probably close to 50, 60%, and even some properties doubling. And that's quite a long growth cycle. And generally that's something that happens, in a cycle that, forces it to go up or down. And I think what we're expecting this year is a little bit more uncertainty with, not only interest rates, but I think mentally where potential vendors are at, that they're no longer thinking that the market is going to continually grow and that, no, let's not sell because we can't find anything. I think it's going to be a bit of a backflip where more people are selling to cash in and just wait to see what happens with the market, and that will force a lot more stock on. And, the super auction Saturday, Josh, we just came out of in Sydney last Saturday was 960 auctions, where this time last year was 1,400. And this time last year, the clearance rates were 52%, not 79%. So that shows you just simple supply and demand factors, that if we see those sort of stock levels come back into the market, clearance rates will drop significantly, and the media will obviously change their tune on what's happening with the market and can change very quickly. So I think you'll definitely see it flatten out, and if not, come off a little bit.
I think the most important thing for agents to understand is that regardless of market conditions, how do you make the best of the day? And that ultimately, I always say to people in 2017, what's going to happen for your area? Do you expect to see average sale prices increasing, stabilising or staying the same, or do you see them softening? And this is the big thing, that after such a long period of growth, we might see markets maybe to stabilise, and in some markets they might come back by 5%. But in other markets like WA, you might actually start to see some price growth after a really tough 2 or 3 years in that marketplace. Then I say to people, what do you see happening in relation to fee next year? And fee might actually be a really important part for you to understand how to, what should you be charging and what level of service are you prepared to provide. Are you going to be seen as the reject shop, or are you going to be seen as the Louis Vuitton of what we actually do inside of real estate? And what's the level of service expectation the client's going to have at that level? What that then drives me is to then think about what's going to happen in relation to volume. So a lot of agents will be exposed that if they're just working in a small farm area, that if the same amount of transactions don't happen out of that farm area, then they're going to be in real trouble. And the reason is that the majority of them have actually done their business planning based on the best year of their career in terms of total volume in that marketplace, as opposed to having a look at what we call the 10-year average. And the 10-year average is that what's the total number of transactions that have happened in that market over the 10-year period as an average, and so you actually base your numbers on that sort of a year, as opposed to the best year of your career where there was a really high level of volume that was coming through, where if you were there, you're just going to catch some balls. So it's really important for agents to be able to do that. Alex, and we're certainly not going to see the level of issues that we saw, particularly around years like a GFC, but what can agents do when they are predicting potentially more normal market conditions in order to be able to still grow an income and grow a great business off the back of that, regardless, rather than going backwards if the market conditions change a little?
It's about progressing the vendors and getting them on sooner rather than later, and having really good conversations around why now, not later. And just getting as many people on that may not be thinking of selling, that then obviously sort of snowballs from there. But, we love a changing market. Like just 2 weeks ago when, Donald Trump got in, the day that happened, the stock market went back, 6% in Australia. We had 2 sales that were going to go through that afternoon that then people pulled out. And we were sort of thinking, this is good because it's going to change the market, which actually it didn't, the following day. But what we love about a changing market is everyone else panics, but that's when you can really flourish and then become more of that trusted advisor to that potential vendor, and obviously get more deals done, because other agents don't know how to change to the market, don't know how to change their dialogue. Obviously are panicking themselves, don't know how to have those direct, hard conversations with vendors. So to us, we actually like a change in the market, and we are actually looking forward to a bit of a change. So hopefully it's not much of a downturn or anything, but I think it's about, obviously, again, going back to that routine and making sure that you know what's going to happen with vendors. They're going to be putting more pressure on you to perform for them. So you've got to go above and beyond to obviously show that you're doing everything possible to get a sale done, which when they want 3 million, but it sells for 2.5 in 6 weeks' time, that they're comfortable to do that because I know you've done absolutely everything possible in a changing market.
I always say to people, you know what? Births, deaths, marriages, and divorces still happen regardless of market conditions. And, that's the really important part is that you've got to think about that if the size of the pie actually reduces, then you actually need to have a much bigger pie. And it's really about making a decision that if you're only going to have a small slice of it, then get a bigger pie. So start chasing more and be that type of agent that adapts. So that means that you might need a better quality team. You might need to put on a better EA. You might need to upgrade the skills of the people that are working inside of your team to help them with price reductions. And what actually happens too is that all of a sudden, then you get buyers that are maybe, less committal. They're a little bit more flakier. And this is the challenge that for a lot of agents that have only seen very successful market conditions, they believe that, they've got plentiful supply of choice. But all of a sudden, when you've got buyers who've got plentiful supply of choice, it can be harder to bring those deals together. So it's important that you understand what are you doing in relation to sale method, what are you doing around marketing, and how do you actually change the way that you market yourself so that you can be seen in the trusted advisor. And I think that in 1 year in some of the marketing that we did with you, when things change, people turn back to people and brands that they trust. And that was a really important point for you, Alex, about being able to show and demonstrate the level of skill and capability that you've built over the course of your career. One of the big things too is that a market can change quickly, and sometimes it can go the other way. You can think that it's going to soften, and then it has another growth spurt. How have you taken advantage of that over the course of the last little bit to be able to make sure that you continue to build a big business?
Josh, I think obviously making sure that the vendors understand, what potentially means, like in a growth spurt, that you want to be getting a property sold now, or say 12 months ago, so you can jump on that next cycle and do the upgrade before you miss it. Because there's a lot of vendors that we sold for 2 years ago. They got too picky. They sold a semi-detached home, looking to upgrade to a freestanding home. We're now selling them semis again because they just missed the market. So you've got to explain that to the vendors, that you've got to get onto it, make it happen quickly, have long settlements, avoid renting, and obviously help them get there.
So that big drive really is understanding that regardless of market conditions on the day, that ultimately you've got to help people to trade in the same market conditions, and so that the actual changeover prices are there, because you've seen plenty of people that thought that they were at the top of the market, they sell out, and then they take another year to try to get back into the market, and before they know it, the entire market's actually left them behind. And so this is the interesting thing is that ultimately all markets are driven purely by two functions. One is demand and the other is supply. And we're going to see different parts of the market perform differently. So like some sections of Melbourne and Sydney, particularly around apartments, there's going to be some significant issues with that. Some sections in WA are actually going to now start to see growth again after going through some pretty challenging circumstances. We've got other things that are happening at a global environment which really didn't affect us. And in 2016, we saw things like Brexit, Trump and Turnbull, but yet at the end of the day, we actually saw a relatively stable market and growth in most of the East Coast. So really, as a great agent, learn that a market can change week by week, and it's your ability to read the play well ahead of the curve that's actually going to set you up for success.